Hello, guys, and welcome to the TSS, the Shoryaveer Show. And today we have someone special from the health department, special, whose name is Dr. Nalini Pati. Dr. Nalini is from Canberra Hospital, and he is joined us just to give us a valuable thoughts around health. It's very important. I know it's very important for us, for all the strugglers, for all the people who are away from their family and doing hard work. So let's join Dr. Nalini on TSS with me, your Shoryaveer. Hello, Dr. Nalini.
Hello, hi, how are you?
I'm good, doctor.
Thanks for inviting, and this is really incredible what you are doing.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming here because I know how busy you are and we appreciate what you do for us. Thanks for joining TSS because when we started TSS, we never know we are gonna sitting with you because I know you since long and I know what you're doing for the community, especially in health sector and also outside health sector. You have done too many events as well for the people around you. We'll talk about health and we'll talk about wellness in this episode.
Very nice, thank you.
Sure. I have a long questions in my list, which I was like preparing from last few weeks. Some of them, my people who follow me send me some list as well. So I have included all the questions and we'll try to dig into your knowledge and if we can find answers for them.
Okay, that's really good approach. I mean, rather than going, web searching, you're going to the people and asking them what they would like to know and putting those questions. That's incredible. And then we can discuss what the questions they have in their mind, and probably they are the common situations as well for everyone.
100%. And I would say this is the first episode we're doing in whole English because I've done in Hindi, in Punjabi, and this is the episode where we can reach out to people who live here, who can understand, because health is wealth for everyone.
Correct.
So, yeah, so I think it's going to be wonderful and we'll give it a kickstart. Um, First, doctor, I just want to ask you about your experience and how you've been to Canberra and how long you're here in Australia.
So I came to Australia in 2005, so around mid 2005. It's a long time back. When I came for a fellowship into bone marrow transplantation in Sydney. So one of the major hospital called Westmead Children's Hospital. That's where I joined as a transplant fellow, and then that was a couple of years. Then my plan was to go back, but at that time, there was another opportunity came to join as a registrar and do the full training to get a degree. So I thought maybe if I'm going back, maybe get a couple of degrees and then go back to India. So then I enrolled into college and did my FR ACPA, FR CPA. So I had to do 2 degrees to do a specialty in hematology, particularly hematological cancers. And then we also manage a lab as well. So I have to look after the patient and also look after some of the aspects of the lab. So then I moved to Melbourne with the family, then come back to Canberra. So Sydney, Melbourne, I was a specialist there. And then Canberra, something brought me here.
Sure. We are lucky to have you in Canberra. When doctor, you talked about cancer. So basically, when we talk about cancer, we search a lot around web as well because I know how bad it is listening to that word. But what we can do to prevent cancer in our family on day-to-day life. When I talk about like the lifestyle, like we all talk about healthy lifestyle, staying fit. But what are the basics we can do in our day-to-day life so we can avoid this cancer?
So it's very interesting question that you're asking. But cancer, as you know, like there is no single solution, right? So we need to understand few things and then do those things correctly, and then hopefully we can stay away from cancer. But cancer still may happen. So what is the bottom line is we need to capture the cancer when it's starting to occur. So at a very early stage. Sometimes we can't prevent the cancer because the way our genetics is, it may eventually will happen, but we need to capture it at an early stage. That's the key. So if you diagnose cancer at a very early stage, and potentially can cure it. So, and then as going back to your question about what you can do to prevent cancer. I mean, if you know there is a family history, like for example, somebody in the family there is a cancer, or there are some risk factors, like you can avoid those risk factors. So, for example, excessive smoking can be linked to cancer, as we know. some dietary habits. We will talk about diet more in detail, but some basic thing like these days, sorry, when you burn the meat, like when you do barbecue, when you do burn the fat, animal fat is converted to into a carcinogen. The carcinogen, what is carcinogen? Which you can cause cancer. So anything that can cause cancer is called carcinogen. So directly, the WHO actually looked at it actually for 10 years before they brought out the white paper. That was 6-7 years ago. So there is a direct link, meat consumption linked to, obviously, I mean, meat, if you eat properly, like with curry and all those, probably okay. But that's being said, like, always there is a high risk when you eat a lot of, consume a lot of meat, mainly the bowel cancer. Okay. And similarly, a lot of other things like you can do, eating healthy and staying fit and in general, because you need to boost your immune system. So immune system doesn't only prevent you from infections, but also it can help prevent the cancer as well. So immune system plays a big role. That's why exercise, keeping your immune system fit, is very important as well.
100%. Because that's what I feel like. If we treat our body as a machine, I think then only we can think like deep into that. And when you said like cooking barbecue for the meat and stuff, do you feel like vegetarians and vegans they have less chances of getting cancer?
Overall, if you see, yes. So that's why probably some of the people are turning into vegetarian. And actually our body, when it started millions of years ago, probably is not designed to eat meat, right? But we are selfish animal, probably. We can do whatever you like. But overall, if you look at vegetarian people, they probably they have a potential to live longer.
Yeah, 100%. Because when I turned into vegetarian, I felt myself pretty light. I felt myself pretty connected to the Almighty. And I think I felt myself pretty fit as well because I was like digesting everything very easy. And in other terms, I was taking protein, which was vegan. But I think I was not cooking meat on barbecue, so I was on a safer side.
So I think that's very important. But the only thing you probably need to be mindful about your protein intake and iron intake. Those things you have to be mindful because in India, when they stop eating meat, they don't replace with something else that will give them enough protein or iron. So those two things probably you need to focus on so that you get enough protein, and you need to know the vegetarian source which has more protein, such as your lentils and dal, and your milk has a lot of protein as well. And yeah, so you need to be mindful of how you can replace with if you're not taking meat.
With that one as well, the thing you said, mindful with what you're eating. I was reading somewhere, and it was like when you eat something with your meals, like if you eat something at 8 a.m. in the morning, and then you again eat around like 12, but you only have 2 hour gap, and then you're not giving your body or your digestive system actually the time to digest it. And then I personally myself, when I started doing, it says intermittent fasting, but I was like actually tracking my meal times and schedules when I'm eating, and I'm actually giving my tummy some time to digest it. I started feeling like I'm actually digesting my protein and iron and all the minerals. Does it work?
It does. I think it's important. Like if you eat too quickly, and stomach needs 4 hours to empty, and also it has to go through some part of the elemental system. And if you eat too soon, obviously there is not that time is not there. One other thing I would like to point here in terms of the timing. Yes, so probably in a day you can have three major meals, like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But one thing, you should not take dinner too late.
Yeah, I'm the one taking at 6 p.m. Yeah.
That's very important because you are allowing your system to digest way before you sleep. Okay, that's important. So have probably if not 6, maybe 7 or something, allow another 3-4 hours before you go to bed. You should not go to bed with a full stomach.
I remember when me and my wife started taking dinners too early, and it was summers here in Australia. When sun is up till 9 p.m., and then we used to take our dinners 5:30 or 6, and then we got a call from India, and we were like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, dinner's done. It's 5:45," and they were like, "Oh, you're gonna get hungry around 9." I was like, "No, I'll take some water. I'll eat like apple with peanut butter or something." But I think it changed our life. Like then I was actually, because I was struggling from sinus, my cold and allergies, but all of a sudden I was starting feeling like my immunity gone up. I think diet plays a lot, like big role there. Um, Another question from myself, like people around me here in Australia, they are all struggling. Some of them are like on student visa, some of them temporary residents. They do 2 jobs, 3 jobs. They're working in petrol stations, restaurants, grocery stores, retail sector majorly, where they do shifts. Some of them they do night shifts, some of them do morning shifts, then another night shift. So their sleep pattern is pretty disturbing. So some of them sleeping for 4 hours, 6 hours, when we say ideal is 8 hours. So my question for them is like, especially I want to know from you, like how much sleep plays a role at their age, because they are like around 20 to 25, and I personally feel they're not sleeping enough. But then they're going to realize after 5 years, when they are overweight, they don't focus on their diet and sleep. So how sleep is going to affect them?
Very important question and very important aspect of our life and in general. Sleep plays a very important role. We all are affected, not having enough sleep, including myself, right? So we need to, ideally we should sleep around, if not more, maybe 7 hours of sleep. 8 hours probably is difficult, but ideally if you can, that's great even. So what happens, why sleep is that important? What happens, we do different things, our different organs. For the brain, the only time brain gets more energy or whatever refreshes when you sleep. So particularly when you immediately fall in sleep, you go to non-rapid movement sleep, NREM sleep, right? So which is a norm, but you need to go to REM, which is a deep part of the sleep. That's a time when the brain, kind of detoxicates everything, so everything goes out of the brain around that time. And also it's important because it's all age. You asked me about 20 to 25 years, but it does affect everyone. All right. But again, it varies. Like the need to sleep is different in different age groups, but it does play a big role in all age groups. So one example I'll give you: a child is growing, or if, going through puberty or maybe early adolescence kind of thing. At that time, there are certain hormones actually produced when you sleep. So the hormones are designed not to, have a function, particularly, you are awake and things like that. So for example, your testosterone and estrogen, all those things actually produce more in quantity when they sleep. So they have a effect on their growth and everything. Okay, growth is very important. It does play important role your immunity as well. If you don't sleep, and I'll come to the mental health side of thing later, but I think immunity also does get affected, your digestion get affected, your heart rate. What happens when we are talking now, right? There are two different types of nervous system. One is called sympathetic, another parasympathetic. Okay. So sympathetic, when you do something and you're running and you're catching, you're driving, is a sympathetic actually drives the whole thing. When you relax, that's when the parasympathetic actually acts. So when in a fight and flight, right, when you see something in the road and that's a sympathetic nervous system that is required as well, or else you can't do those functions. At the same time, you need to have the parasympathetic, which cools down everything. That's when you have the good hormones are produced, a good cytokine, which is a new, talk of the, the world. Cytokines, they're produced, oxytocin and endorphin, they're the very calming hormones that are produced when you sleep. That's very important. And also your growth in, you may have you may develop diabetes, and people develop more weight, if they don't sleep, because they eat different things. And then heart rate goes up if you don't sleep, and then that leads to heart problems, hypertension, high blood pressure. Those issues occur if you don't sleep well. So and mental health is very important. You have more stress if you don't sleep well, and during the work you function less. You won't be able to concentrate on your work, so your ability to produce a good quality work is less, and your relationship with your work colleagues won't be good, because you're stressed and you didn't have good sleep. So if it goes on for years, that has a big effect on the overall thing that we do.
Because my message from this, what do you have just told me like all about like sleep and everything. My message to all these youngsters is like pretty clear. You can do as many as jobs, but just take care of your health and sleep, because I can see people irritating around me, around work as well, like who does most of the night shifts and don't sleep properly. And that's clearly relate to what you said, like about the hormones. So they hormones which are going to make them happy is they are not letting them to generate them. So they are like pretty irritating, and their diet pattern is nothing near to balanced.
And there are some tricks actually how they can help themselves, to sleep well. Because some people say I can't sleep, but there are some tricks like how can you do that. I mean, yes, what you can do is go for a walk. Walking around 30 minutes will help you that. Also, if you can go to gym, spend some time in the gym. All right, that will help you. And don't eat after 6 or 7 p.m. or very late. That again would not let you sleep well. And also, taking a lot of coffee or tea or anything after 7 or something like that would not help you. So avoid those. And also, some people take alcohol for that matter, that so that they can sleep. That's not true. Long term is going to affect their mental health as well. So
Yeah. And even like with caffeine, what you said, I can remember like people doing night shifts and they're not sleeping enough. They will take like black coffee, and they will feel better straight away. Oh, I'm fine. I just need 2 hours sleep. But then once caffeine's gone, then they're gonna feel actual body like, oh, I have pain in my legs, I have pain here. I'm gonna eat some sugar to energize myself, but that sugar is gonna affect you later. So actually, they're not hitting the goal, but they're not accepting. Yeah, that's yeah, it's transient. Yeah, 100%. And when we talk about diabetes and blood pressure, so I know back in India, like even like in my family, my relatives, they have a mentality diabetes and blood pressure are a part of journey. So even like if I do a random phone call to any 40+ year old, if I'll ask him how's your diabetes medicine going on, he will tell me. I have that strong feeling in back in India, in our families and relatives, 1 out of 2 is going to have a diabetes or a blood pressure. So my question there is like, why it's so common in families from our culture background that people are getting diabetes now in that early age group?
yeah, so it's very very important. And as you probably know, and people know that now, that India is the diabetic capital of the world, right? A lot of diabetes. So if you look at the list of the countries, India leads the list, right? Number one, world's total diabetes patient. More than half of the patients they live in just in India. Out of that, Hyderabad, actually the diabetic capital. The recently WHO said, Hyderabad is the capital of the diabetes of the entire world. So a lot of diabetes, yes. So incidence very high. There are many factors, but most important factor is our genetic. I mean, there is some problem with the genetic way, which we are prone for developing diabetes at some point of our life. And then diet patterns, like we are kind of what we call foodies, like we eat more and we love food. Yes, that's why we eat different type of food. But what is important, actually, we eat too much.
Yeah, 100%. We don't need that much. I feel like when I started eating less, I was feeling pretty well, and I was still alive, and I was like digesting everything. And next day, and I think the time management when you eat, like, the things we discussed before, I think with me, if I would have stayed in India in my old diet when I was there and with the old pattern, I would be diabetic from last 8 years, what I'm feeling.
So then the other thing also, there is an entity called pre-diabetes. So you're not diabetic yet, but you're pretty much in that range or close to that range. If you don't take the steps at this point when you are pre-diabetic, very soon within few years you will turn into full diabetes. So I think there are a lot of scopes you can do before, even if you hit your diabetic range. So if you have any doubt, I mean, everybody should have their blood sugar checked, particularly if there's a family history. And because if there is a family history, particularly in both sides of the parent, then high chance somebody will develop diabetes at a younger age, right? And there are so many two types of diabetes, type 1 and type 2. But the one we are talking about is type 2. Type 1, again, genetic, again, you can't do much, but again, they start insulin very early when as a child. But we are talking about type 2 diabetes, which we can, do adjust your lifestyle, eat well, eat healthy, and do exercise. And you can definitely, if you're pre-diabetic, and you can change yourself into normal range, and instead of hitting the diabetic kind of state, let's say within a couple of years, that'll be another 10 years. So you get 10 years out of, which is really good.
100%. And if there is like a strong genetic history, like both your parents were diabetic, your grandparents were diabetic, and when I say genetic, it's like a strong diabetic, like where you're taking insulins. Can a child following a good healthy lifestyle can break that cycle in the family?
If you again, I'll clarify. Type 1, probably he can't, but type 2 probably yes. So type 1 comes by genetic makeup and everything. So type 2 also linked to genetic, but that's in different way. Okay, type 1 probably somebody can't avoid, but if somebody is diagnosed at early age, then they can start the insulin and get it checked regularly and get it fully controlled. You can't cure, but you can control it. And type 2, yes. So with the dietary modification, exercising, and reducing a body mass index, which we gonna talk about a little bit. So I think that's very important. If you reduce your weight, then high chance that you can convert your diabetes to slightly pre-diabetic or even the normal range. It's very important.
So I think pretty much it's related to healthy lifestyle, and weight plays a bigger role.
Very important, yes.
Yeah. And my question next one was it's pretty funny as well when I talk to like some of the doctors, and when I see doctors as well, some of the doctors are pretty overweight as well. And I was like, I remember one of the hospital back in India.
I'm not overweight.
Perfectly fit. But like some of the doctors, when I see them, they're like pretty overweight. And then I personally feel like, when we go to pundits and they give you some astronomy ideas, and I was like, if you know that, then why are you telling me like why you can't make the money? So if a doctor knows like what's the healthy lifestyle is, what is a proper diet is, so why they are overweight? So I know there can be some bottlenecks or obstacles, but have you also met with these challenges?
I think it's important. Being obese or being overweight is a very complex phenomenon. Sometimes you can't avoid that as well. It's not that simple. The more we understand about obesity or diabetes, obesity, in that matter, diabetes also a little bit connected to obesity or overweight. It's sometimes you can't avoid it, but you can modify it. Okay, because a lot of hormones actually they play a big role. How much your body absorbs your calories and proteins through the system, and that's based on the local hormone that is being generated in the stomach itself. So that's very important. Then I think and also sometimes people they know but they don't apply themselves on themselves, right? So a doctor is probably busy and didn't do their work and didn't spend a bit of time in the gym or go for a walk kind of thing. So ultimately that does affect them. So, but again, obesity is actually very complex, and probably if your listeners they would like to know the BMI, the standard BMI, which should be between 20 to 25. It's a good BMI to have, and below 20 would be I'm giving the ballpark figure, but it actually would be 18.8 to 25, and then 25 to 29 would be overweight range, and then more than 29 or more than 30 clearly obese. So these days actually it's not difficult to find out your BMI. There is a lot of applications and apps you can or online you can put your height and weight, you can get your BMI. So if the BMI is even the overweight range, you need to work hard to bring it to the normal range between 20 to 25.
And what do you reckon? What's the perfect age where you can start working on your BMI?
Early on, the earlier you start the better. Sometimes you see children, they're already overweight because they eat too much of fast foods and drink a lot of soft drinks, and which will have a lot of calories. So start cutting them pretty early on, because what happens once the fat cells are formed, that happens very early on. You can't get rid of those fat cells, and then the fat cells they grow. Only thing that happens, the fat cells small size, they grow into a bigger size because they accumulate more fats and everything.
That's why like sometimes I feel myself unlucky. When I started working on BMI, I was like in my 30s, and at that time I felt like why I didn't started it like 10 or 20 years before. Like when I was back in India, I was not worried about my diet. I was like pretty lenient, eating everything, and I if I calculate, I was eating like maybe 6 times a day and eating everything. And the moment I started working on BMIs, I realized why not before? Why I didn't do this?
But one thing is never too late. You can start at any age. People start exercising, doing bike riding, all that very late. So you can start at any point. It's not like you haven't done that and you miss out completely. Not like that. You still can work on. It'll take some time, but again, but if you're struggling still, not shedding that extra weight, then I think should see the doctor and see whether there are some medications which to help them to initial phase. I mean, at the initial stage, and then there are some surgeries can be done. Like somebody is 150, 160 kilos, they can't lose weight that quickly, right? So they might have to undergo some kind of surgery. There are many surgeries can be done, but again, that's in the advanced stage, which cannot be controlled initially with the dietary measures. You can look at those because obesity is extremely important as well. I mean, your heart disease and your diabetes, your high cholesterol, it's all interlinked.
My next question was like interlinked to this thing as well. When we go to see a doctor, like all these examples are like from my experience, my friends and families. So if I go to a doctor and I'll be like, I have pain in my legs, I have pain in my feet, I can't sleep, I'm feeling a bit of chest pain as well, like it's uneasy. And then most of the doctors, they will write us some tests and medication. But I found it very less like people around us who are doctors. They actually tell us like, what's your diet? What do you eat? Do you drink water enough? Like, what's your cholesterol and what's bringing it up from your diet? And I think when people start looking into that, you find the root cause a bit. But I feel like when I talk to doctors like you and people around me here, they always ask me like, okay, are you vegetarian? What's your diet? What are you taking for iron? What are you taking for protein? How much water you drink? How much sleep do you do? Do you walk? Do you cycle? Like, do you ride bike? And I didn't heard these answers back in India. So that's why I felt like when I talked to my family back there, I'm like, are you taking care of your diet? And they feel it funny. They're like, but we are taking medication. So what do you say about that?
So I think going back to the question about the diet, I'll give you a simple kind of explanation and the tip probably for everyone. So plate, right? One plate. So divide your plate half. Bottom half you should fill with all vegetables, salads and whatever. Bottom half. Then upper half they again divide. So 1/4. So 50% of that plate should be filled with vegetables and salads and everything. The top one half should be your carbohydrate, for example your rice or pasta or roti, whatever. The other half should be protein. So that protein could be meat, could be lentil, dal, anything. So that's how we should design roughly. I mean, it doesn't have to be exact, but roughly if you can be mindful about that, that'll solve a lot of problem. And then the portion size, reduce your portion size. Never eat too much. I mean, you can eat how much you like, but I think if you be bit of mindful as to reduce your total quantity that you're eating, that'll solve a lot of problems. Because you have to do so much exercise to lose a small amount of calorie, right? People don't know, like you can go to the gym, but spending half an hour all that every day, you can lose this, but you can do easily by cutting down your portion size.
I have worked through that. I have tried Buddha balls as well, a bowl thing. There was a science behind it. Start eating in the bowls. So we ever did plates as well. And then we went to the bowls. And then after that, we get rid of refined oil from our kitchen. Like we started cooking in water. And then we felt it like pretty easy. And then I think it requires patience. So another thing I learned about it, when your wife gives you a hand in good diet, you achieve your goals pretty easy. Because when my wife was doing it by herself, she was not getting there. I was not getting there by myself. The moment we started doing it together, I think it was achievable.
Yeah.
Just the next question is around like heart disease, because it's pretty common. And I would say some of them is like I was reading somewhere, if you're uneasy in your breath, you are like climbing steps and you felt like you're not breathing properly, you might have blockage. And it's pretty common in India in early ages as well, and even like here as well, with the diets we have, with the lifestyle we have. What are the early signs of heart diseases and we should react straight away?
Yeah, it touched my heart. So it's very important, and that's why when I do the CPR sessions and cardiac. I'm a oncology, but I do a lot of CPR sessions and cardiac health awareness programs. It's very important. Few things we need to understand here and know. I'll just say South Asia, not specifically India, South Asia, including India. So we have a heart disease slightly more common than our Western counterparts. Okay, that's one thing. Incidence of the heart disease start early. So our age group, you look at, if you compare with the Western, 33% or one third of our patients actually much younger than the Western people. And the other scenario also, if I give you two people with the same cholesterol level, Western and India or South Asian, we have higher chance of heart, so double the risk of heart attacks and things like that. You at the same level of cholesterol. So we have got a lot of work to do in that area. As because again comes back to our genetics and all the our artery structures in the heart and everything. Unfortunately, we can't avoid that. What we can do is, I think, start checking. People, they think, oh, I should not do my cholesterol check, until I hit 40. No, not correct. You should start doing, maybe if there's a family history, even if you have to do early, maybe early. If there is no family history, still you should check your cholesterol level at as early as 20. Right? If the cholesterol is normal, then you do once every 5 years check. That's fine. But if you have slightly borderline or high, because nowadays the target of cholesterol is going lower and lower. It's not if from Indian, the reference range actually is slightly different from the Western reference. It's just a matter of different units they use. So in Indian, look, it's 200, right? But now they have brought it down to 150. So not 200 anymore. So if somebody has 220, 230, they'll say, okay, I'll just manage. But now that's not correct, because the heart attack is not going to happen within an overnight kind of thing, right? It'll happen in 4 or 5 years. By that stage, damage already done. So I think it's hard. Your heart has to be healthy, and you need to look after the heart, pretty early on, and do the screenings. If there's a family history, then you have to even do more things even early, right? And if somebody has bad habit like smoking, like smoking is bad for many things, including heart and lungs as well. So smoking, and there are deadly combinations. You have high cholesterol, there's a family history, and there is smoking in the person's history, then these three are bad, deadly combinations to cause heart problems. So you need to be mindful and then do the intervention early. That'll be very useful. Otherwise you end up, people we hear these days, somebody has a heart attack at the 30s. I mean, no age is a you know immune, like any, it can happen to any age group. So earlier we used to think, oh, 30, that person won't happen anything. Not true. And particularly the family history, you need to be very proactive and do things early.
Yeah, 100%. And then another thing is with the youngsters and with all that stuff, like, we are mindful about our health, and then we go to the gym and we build muscles and we take protein, and or like I can be muscular, but then we don't think about healthy organs. So I always feel about healthy organs or healthy muscles. So I can be muscular, but if I don't have a healthy heart or healthy, digestive system or anything like that, it's not gonna make me win in a long term. So what do you think about healthy organs or healthy muscles?
I think it's both important, and it's an interesting concept, healthy organs. And so I think you need to, there's no one thing. Like in gym, we do what to do. For the organs sake, we discuss many things. All those things would be applied, like eating healthy, doing exercise, eating fruit, very important, three to four fruits every day. Doing regular exercise or walking and something, again very important. And mental health as well. So stress, long-term stress is not going to be health, because it has got impact on heart. It can impact your many things. Many organs can get affected. Chronic stress, which is not good for anyone. So if you have chronic stress, again, you need to find ways to disengage from the stressful situation and then do something different. Meditation, again, very important, very helpful. And do regularly, consistent, that's very important. So all those things will help you to achieve healthy organs. There is no one single solution.
100%. You hit the nail, I think, when you said mental health. I think it plays a big role, because when I'm like mentally sound, I'm feeling myself fresh. And if I go to gym or do exercise, I'll do it double if I'm mentally fit. But the moment I'm not sleeping well, I'm mentally stressed, and I feel like I shouldn't do workout as well because I'm not going to give my 100%. And I think the news I heard from all the news channels where people at the young age they're having heart attacks. I have a strong feeling their sleep cycle, their diet cycle, and their protein intake or whatever is not there where it should be, like physically and mentally.
Yes, and also the other way around. If you do have some mental issues like mental stressful situations, anxiety, if you do exercise, work, that helps because that produces the healthy hormones. That helps as well. So yes, you can't do exercise when you are mentally not sound, but that's why you should be spending some time in the gym. Then you feel better. That's the solution.
100%. And my next question is pretty interesting, and it's like, what do you think, medicine or meditation? So I feel like I was looking into our ancient culture, like when we had yoga and we had, when doctors were like called Vad, they used to make medicines at home. But then we had yogis as well who used to do yoga, meditation. Those were like the pre-steps to avoid medicine. So I still feel like I don't know what's the correct answer for that, meditation or medicine.
I also don't know the correct answer either, but I think you have to take both. I don't think you can avoid medicine in certain situations. You have to, but I think meditation does help, right? So meditation can complement in many things, but it can't, you know, disallow to use of the medicine, right? So you have to use the medicine, and meditation probably would help in augmenting your better health.
I'll revolve my question a bit because why I thought about it was when I talk to some people, they are like, "Oh, we have done our health insurance." Then they are talking about like what they're going to do after 40 or 50. Or we have done our health insurance, we are fully secured. If we had a problem, we have a doctor, we have medication, we have fully booked, we are good to go. But then they're not thinking about like what they can do to avoid that medical insurance as well, like to revolve it around like a healthy lifestyle or medicine.
I mean, healthy lifestyle. So prevention always better than the cure, right? You don't need to go to the point you need to start using medicine. If you can prevent it, like then that's much better. I mean, eating healthy and doing even prevention, like bowel checks, like sometime after certain age you need bowel screening and early cancer you can detect early. Same thing, men they have a different cancer called prostatic cancer. Then you do the prostatic surface antigen testing, PSA levels on a regular basis. Then you detect early, then you do minor intervention and it's done. For example, bowel cancer diagnosed at stage 1, take out in a small portion and then that's done kind of thing, or maybe remove that polyp. But if you don't do this and you end up in advanced stage cancer, then it's difficult to treat at that point. Same thing applies to heart, the same thing applies to your kidneys, and same thing applies to many other organs. You detect early and then intervene early. That's why people migrate here. I think they need to still go through the normal process for themselves. They need to look after your own health. Otherwise you end up spending more money or spending time in the hospital rather than spending the time with yourself.
Yeah, and even like I still feel like people who are working here, I think they are like, especially like they have all physical jobs, they're actually burning themselves. They are like, even like if you have an Apple Watch, you'll be doing like 10,000, 12,000 steps when you're working in a industry or a restaurant. But even like back in India, when people have a sitting job, they are actually sitting there but not burning the calories, just eating. So my next question was just like over there as well, with the technology we are going into, like when we say AI, like AI is going to take over everything in coming days and years. So especially in India, what do you reckon, like people not walking that much but they have other plan B to opt for, like I have auto rickshaw, I'll sit on there, and even like I don't have to walk, I'll go there, I'll just pay them like 10-20 rupees. But that's the short term. But then the long term, we are not thinking about that, because when I visit my families now, I always prefer like what I'm doing here, like I'll walk, I'll prefer like I'll do my steps. But then I'm looking into like 10 years after what Shorya is going to do. So what do you reckon? Oh, walk or auto?
You answered your question already. So I think there is no brainer. I mean, definitely putting that extra effort and putting your steps out is very, very helpful. I'll give another example. Like, when you work in the hospital or go to office, multi-story kind of thing. If your heart is, if you're fit, you take the steps, don't take the lifts. I mean, again, I don't want to put India in every discussion, but generally, if people try to wait for a long period of time to get that lift and then go second floor or third floor, you can easily, if you can do it from a heart point of view or lungs point of view, is just do it, use the steps. So same thing. And parking your car a little bit far knowingly, then go for a walk and then go to somebody's house. Don't park nearby, park a little bit far. That's another concept. And you can do the same thing. And going to the work in the morning, park somewhere, like, and if you can walk to your work, you can. I mean, if your time allows, then I think that's perfectly more sensible. And that way you do your 10,000 or 15,000 steps in a
Yeah.
day.
And now I think I got the answer. When you came here, you parked your car a bit far. You walked from there. So walking to our studio actually burnt a bit of calories. So
I just had a lunch as well, so it's good that I did that.
100%, because that was like, because when I was going into like a good diet plan and all this medication and stuff, when I was traveling to see my family, and I had a 12-hour journey in a plane, so I had like two options: either I'm gonna taste all the cuisine in the plane where I'm sitting, but then I chose like I'll have a tea and then I'll sit down, I'll have some nuts, because I'm not gonna walk in the plane is flying and I'm just resting. So I actually take care of my body. And I think that's the biggest thing we can do to avoid medication later. And my last question, I think we already covered that, because if my BMI is correct, am I step ahead from everyone?
Yes, true. And that's very important, because you are within the normal range. That means your weight is appropriate. That means your calorie intake probably is appropriate. And then that'll help, in many ways. Like, you will feel more fitter, you'll feel mentally more active, more alert. You'll be able to concentrate more in the work. If you are, like, same thing, if you are carrying excess weight, and you probably won't be feeling that active, and mentally you might have that clogginess feeling, I don't know. So those things probably won't be there if you are within the right BMI. And I think that's very important. You're definitely one step or many steps ahead if you are already in the right BMI spectrum.
And my last question to you, what do you do out of the box to keep you healthy? Yoga, medication, or hit the gym?
You have to combine three things. Let's say, I mean, not necessarily myself, but if somebody has high cholesterol and it's not dropping, you don't need to just keep on doing exercise and thinking that it will come down to normal. That's not correct. So sometimes you have to combine three things, like bit of meditation, going to gym regularly, walking, medication when there is, if somebody has high blood pressure, right? It won't come back normally. It will, but if it is not coming down within few months, it won't. So you have to combine medication, and then with the help of the medication, your numbers come down to normal range. Same thing for diabetes. You have taken the medication, number have come down, and then you try for some time, then you can stop the medication, then you continue with your yoga, meditation, exercise, walking, all that. But this is always, we need to remember, this is not one thing that will help fix everything. We have to combine sometimes few things. But once you have achieved that, you can stop the medication, and then you don't need to, that's pharmaceutical.
And when you say high cholesterol, does it makes a sense like high cholesterol for the meat eaters? When I say like the non-vegetarian industry around us, is it like high cholesterol? Like when we talk about vegan food and all this stuff like gluten-free, does they have the same cholesterol levels?
Less. So I've given a talk recently about high cholesterol. We can go on for talking about cholesterol for 1 hour. But I think, cholesterol is important. But again, same thing. It's not always meat eaters, they will have high cholesterol in general, but not always true that vegetarian people, they will have a normal cholesterol. No, because his body's own system produces the cholesterol, right? It's not always what you eat. Body has an innate system, produces the cholesterol, and then sometimes if the body's liver metabolism is not great, the cholesterol will go up. So you have to take the medication to bring that down. But if but overall, if you look at, yes, meat eaters and people, they eat all these fast foods, processed foods, and saturated food with saturated fat, like dalda. Like in India, they should take dalda. Now it has come down, but still people use dalda. And a lot of other food is actually coconut oil has a lot of saturated fat. So anything that has saturated fat will have high cholesterol ultimately.
Because now we had a feeling and we started doing it, like anything we are buying from the grocery store, we always look into the back, like what's written there in the ingredients. If it's a palm oil, I'm not touching it. If it's like saturated, unsaturated, what you said, I'm not touching it. Trans fats, I'm like literally going into that. And we started it bit like a sattvic food, when we heard about it. And then we went to the Ayurveda,
Okay,
like how we can,
Ayurveda is good.
yeah, like get into that, like. And there was a line like, if you don't cook your food that much, I think you're eating healthy. And I really like that. And then I actually felt it for like 15-20 days. We tried it. Like we were like on a lean diet, like eating everything which was half cooked or like less cooked or like even like raw, like nuts and all that stuff. And I felt fantastic. I was like literally feeling like my body is generating new cells.
Okay, that's good.
So
You got the example yourself.
yeah, that's why I was like pretty excited to have a chat with you. And I think we covered pretty much everything. And I'm sure everyone who will enjoy this episode will take their buckets out of this, like how to achieve this healthy lifestyle. And our audience definitely is going to enjoy it. And yeah, no, I'm like willing to do another episode with you soon. Thank you for coming to TSS and to have a seat with me and actually chat in a way where I was like talking to someone who is like the compatible person to answer. And I think it was a fantastic session.
Thank you. Thanks for giving me the opportunity, and thanks to TSS, and thanks to you and Tipti, and it's wonderful.
Thank you, Dr. Nalini. I'll hope to see you soon. Thank you. Thanks for coming.